Imagine the hushed steps of monks, their robes whispering secrets as they journey through the ancient world. But their mission isn't spiritual contemplation. It's industrial espionage, a daring raid on the most closely guarded secret of the era, the production of silk in China. This is just one glimpse into the shadowy world we're about to explore, the world of shadow fleets. For millennia, ships have sailed outside the boundaries of international laws and norms, driven by the lure of profit, the desperation of embargo, or the defiance of political power. These aren't just pirates or smugglers, they are sophisticated networks of vessels and individuals operating in the gray areas of global trade, challenging established power structures and reshaping economies. In this audiobook, we'll embark on a 1,500-year voyage through the clandestine history of maritime evasion. We will dissect the silk heist, exploring how it shattered a powerful monopoly. Next, we'll chart the evolution of sanction busting, from ancient Rome's customs-dodging merchants to the daring blockade runners of the American Civil War, revealing the ingenious tactics they employed. We'll then delve into the birth of the modern dark fleet, tracing its origins from the Rhodesian oil embargo to its dramatic expansion following the 2022 invasion of Ukraine. We will be taking a look at the Arms for Oil shuttle, focusing on Russia and North Korea. Finally, we'll confront the complex questions of sovereignty, international rules, and the future of maritime trade in a world increasingly defined by geopolitical tensions. Discover how these clandestine operations have changed over time, driven by factors such as trade monopolies, political tensions, and technological advancements. No prior knowledge is required, just an open mind and a willingness to explore the hidden currents of global history. Chapter 1. The Silk Heist, a Monopoly Broken. For centuries, China held a complete monopoly on silk production. The process of cultivating silkworms, harvesting their cocoons, and weaving the lustrous fabric was a closely guarded secret, punishable by death. Silk became a symbol of wealth and power, adorning emperors and elites, and driving a thriving international trade. China controlled the supply and dictated the terms, giving them immense economic and political leverage. This created both enormous wealth and a powerful incentive for others to break their dominance. The secrets were held within the imperial workshops, passed down through generations of artisans. The Silk Road, while facilitating trade, also heightened the desire for other nations to unlock the mystery of silk production. According to legend, monks traveling from China to the Byzantine Empire in the 6th century AD played a crucial role in ending China's silk monopoly. They allegedly smuggled silkworm eggs hidden inside their hollow bamboo staffs. This act of industrial espionage, though perhaps romanticized, had profound consequences. Once the Byzantines learned to cultivate silkworms, they established their own silk industry, challenging China's dominance and shifting the balance of power. This wasn't just about acquiring a valuable commodity, it was about economic independence and challenging the established order. It demonstrated that even the most closely guarded secrets could be compromised. The monks' actions can be viewed as an early example of a shadow market operating outside established trade regulations. While technically a violation of Chinese law, it could also be seen as a justified act of resistance against a restrictive monopoly. Silk was a crucial material with far-reaching economic and social implications. By breaking the Chinese monopoly, the monks facilitated the spread of silk production, benefiting other societies and fostering competition. It highlights the complex moral and economic considerations that often underlie shadow market activities. Was it theft, or was it liberation of a crucial resource? It's a question that still resonates today. Chapter 2. Evasion's Evolution, Rome to Civil War. The Roman Empire, like many empires throughout history, relied on customs taxes known as portorium to generate revenue. These taxes, which could reach as high as 25% on certain goods, incentivized merchants to find ways to evade them. Shadow merchants engaged in various tactics to avoid paying the portorium. These included smuggling goods through less patrolled areas, bribing customs officials, and falsifying cargo manifests. The scale of tax evasion was significant, costing the Roman Empire substantial revenue. This highlights the enduring tension between state efforts to collect revenue and the ingenuity of individuals seeking to avoid paying taxes. During the American Civil War 1861-1865, the Union Navy established a naval blockade of Confederate ports to prevent the Confederacy from importing supplies and exporting cotton. This blockade created a desperate need for the Confederacy to obtain essential goods. Blockade runners, often swift and maneuverable ships, risked capture to slip through the Union blockade and deliver supplies to Confederate ports. They brought in weapons, ammunition, medicine, and other necessities, while exporting cotton to European markets. These blockade runners played a vital role in sustaining the Confederate war effort, though they could not ultimately overcome the Union's superior resources. Blockade runners employed various tactics to evade the Union Navy. They painted their hulls gray to blend in with the twilight and used smokeless anthracite coal to reduce their visibility at night. They often operated from neutral ports, such as Nassau in the Bahamas, which served as hubs for transferring cargo between larger merchant ships and the smaller, faster blockade runners. Speed and stealth were essential for success. Blockade running was a dangerous and profitable business, attracting daring captains and crew willing to risk capture for the sake of profit and the Confederate cause. It also involved complex logistical networks and financial arrangements. Chapter 3. Birth of the Modern Dark Fleet, 1960s-2022. The 1966 United Nations oil embargo against Rhodesia, now Zimbabwe, imposed due to its white minority government's policies, is considered a key turning point in the history of modern sanction evasion. Rhodesia, desperate for oil, relied on clandestine networks to circumvent the embargo. This led to the development of sophisticated techniques for concealing the origin and destination of oil shipments, including ship-to-ship transfers and the use of false documentation. The Rhodesian experience demonstrated the limitations of sanctions when faced with determined actors willing to operate in the shadows. It highlighted the need for more robust enforcement mechanisms. The Iran-Iraq War, 1980-1988, further accelerated the development of shadow fleets. Both sides targeted each other's oil tankers in the Persian Gulf, creating a dangerous environment for shipping. To avoid detection and attack, many ships began turning off their automatic identification system, AIS, transponders, effectively going dark. This practice made it difficult to track their movements and determine their true destinations. The Iran-Iraq War marked a significant escalation in the use of maritime deception as a tool of warfare and sanction evasion. It laid the groundwork for the modern dark fleet phenomenon. Following Russia's 2022 invasion of Ukraine, Western countries imposed unprecedented sanctions on Russia, including restrictions on its oil exports. This led to a dramatic expansion of the shadow fleet as Russia sought to circumvent these sanctions and continue selling its oil on the global market. Hundreds of aging tankers, often operating under opaque ownership structures, were acquired to transport Russian oil to countries willing to purchase it, such as China and India. This shadow fleet has become a crucial component of a parallel global economy, allowing Russia to maintain its oil revenues despite Western sanctions. The scale and sophistication of this operation are unprecedented. Chapter 4. The 2025 Escalation. A crisis emerges. By late 2025, a concerning trend emerged, an arms-for-oil shuttle between Russia and North Korea. Facing dwindling weapons stockpiles and seeking to replenish its arsenal for the ongoing conflict, Russia allegedly began exchanging heavily discounted oil for North Korean munitions. These transactions, conducted via dark fleets operating in the Sea of Japan, were flagrant violations of international sanctions against both countries. The routes were circuitous, the ships disguised, and the financial transactions hidden behind shell corporations. This created significant alarm among Western powers, raising concerns about the proliferation of weapons and the erosion of the international sanctions regime. A parallel shadow fleet began to emerge in the Arctic, focused on transporting liquefied natural gas, LNG, from Russia's Yamal LNG project to Asian markets. As Western sanctions tightened around Russian energy projects, Russia increasingly relied on a fleet of ice-class tankers operating under complex ownership structures to maintain its LNG exports. These tankers often transited through the Northern Sea route, challenging Western sanctions aimed at restricting access to Arctic resources. The logistical challenges of operating in the Arctic, combined with the deliberate obfuscation of ownership and routes, made it difficult to track and interdict these LNG shipments. On December 10, 2025, a U.S. Coast Guard cutter, acting under a contested interpretation of international law, intercepted and seized the tanker Skipper in international waters off the coast of Venezuela. The Skipper was suspected of transporting Venezuelan oil in violation of U.S. sanctions. This marked a significant escalation in the enforcement of sanctions, moving from financial pressure and asset freezes to direct physical intervention. The seizure sparked a diplomatic crisis, with Venezuela condemning the action as an act of piracy and a violation of its sovereignty. The incident highlighted the growing tensions surrounding the enforcement of unilateral sanctions and the potential for conflict in international waters. Chapter 5. Our House, Our Rules. A central question in the debate over shadow fleets is the legitimacy of unilateral sanctions. Why does one country, such as the United States, have the power to impose sanctions that affect the economic activities of other countries? Many nations view unilateral sanctions as a violation of their sovereignty and a form of economic coercion. They argue that sanctions should only be imposed by international bodies, such as the United Nations, with broad international consensus. The U.S., however, maintains that it has the right to impose sanctions to protect its national security interests and to promote international norms. This fundamental disagreement fuels the growth of shadow fleets as countries targeted by U.S. sanctions seek ways to circumvent them. The United States and the European Union, wield significant power in the global economy due to their control over the invisible infrastructure of international finance. This includes the Society for Worldwide Interbank Financial Telecommunication SWIFT system, which facilitates international payments, and the dominance of the U.S. dollar and the euro as reserve currencies. These systems allow the U.S. and EU to effectively cut off countries and companies from the global financial system, making it difficult for them to conduct international trade. This financial leverage is a key tool in enforcing sanctions and pressuring other countries to comply with their policies. The shadow fleet can be viewed as a dirt road that bypasses the main road of the established global financial system. It operates outside the reach of Western banking regulations and insurance markets, relying on alternative financial networks and opaque ownership structures. This allows sanctioned countries and companies to continue trading, albeit at a higher cost and with greater risk. The shadow fleet is not a perfect substitute for the established financial system, but it provides a crucial lifeline for those seeking to evade sanctions. It represents a challenge to the dominance of the U.S. dollar and the Western financial system. Chapter 6: Zombie Fleets and Ship Smugglers. A particularly troubling aspect of the shadow fleet phenomenon is the use of zombie ships. These are vessels that have reached the end of their useful life and are typically sold for scrap. However, shadow fleet operators acquire these ships, often at bargain prices, and continue to operate them despite their age and poor condition. These zombie ships pose significant environmental and safety risks, as they are more likely to be involved in accidents and oil spills. The lack of proper maintenance and oversight makes them a serious threat to maritime safety and the environment. Beyond oil and other commodities, shadow fleets are also involved in the smuggling of high-tech components, particularly semiconductors. These chip and drone smuggling operations often involve complex networks of shell companies and middlemen operating in countries like the United Arab Emirates and Turkey. These countries serve as transshipment points for diverting semiconductors and other restricted technologies to sanctioned countries. The demand for these components is driven by the need for advanced electronics in military applications, such as AI-guided drones and advanced weapon systems. The smuggled semiconductors are often used to produce advanced AI-guided drones and other military technologies. These drones are becoming increasingly important in modern warfare, offering a relatively low-cost and effective way to conduct surveillance and attack enemy targets. The use of smuggled semiconductors in these drones raises serious concerns about the proliferation of advanced weapons technology and the potential for destabilizing conflicts. The shadow fleet plays a critical role in facilitating this illicit trade, undermining international efforts to control the spread of sensitive technologies. In conclusion, the story of shadow fleets is a story of continuous adaptation, fueled by the eternal tug-of-war between profit and regulation, sovereignty and international order. From the ancient monks smuggling silkworm eggs to the modern-day tankers evading oil sanctions, these clandestine operations have consistently challenged the established norms of global trade and geopolitics. They reveal the limits of state power, the ingenuity of those seeking to circumvent restrictions, and the enduring allure of economic opportunity, even in the face of risk. The tension between national sovereignty and international rules remains at the heart of the shadow fleet phenomenon. Nations often assert their right to act independently in pursuit of their own interests, even if it means defying international norms or sanctions. This creates a space for shadow fleets to operate, exploiting the gaps and inconsistencies in the global regulatory framework. The United States and the European Union wield significant power in the global economy, but their influence is not absolute. Shadow fleets demonstrate that there are alternative pathways for conducting trade, even if they are riskier and more costly. Looking to the future, the role of shadow fleets is likely to grow as geopolitical tensions rise and new technologies emerge. The increasing use of artificial intelligence, blockchain, and other technologies could further complicate efforts to track and regulate maritime trade. The ongoing conflict in Ukraine and the growing rivalry between the United States and China are likely to fuel the expansion of shadow fleets as countries seek to circumvent sanctions and maintain access to essential resources. As we navigate this complex and uncertain future, understanding the history and dynamics of shadow fleets is more important than ever. These dirt road economies will continue to evolve, creating new challenges for policymakers, businesses, and the international community as a whole. The seas, once again, have become a stage for quiet conflict,